الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واستفزز من استطعت منهم بصوتك واجلب عليهم بخيلك ورجلك وشاركهم في الأموال والأولاد وعدهم وما يعدهم الشيطان إلا غرورا. إن عبادي ليس لك عليهم سلطان وكفى بربك وكيلا. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: لا يلدغ المؤمن من جحر واحد مرتين. وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام: الأنات من الله والعجلة من الشيطان، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الحبيب الكريم، ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين، والحمد لله رب العالمين. It has always been a habit from the time we started speaking that many a time we leave it for the last few minutes, and then whatever comes in the mind at that time and we agree upon it, then we make dua and we say, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala, let what we say have some benefit. Why it came in the mind at the moment we don't understand, so we say it. And many a time it has its benefit. Some person will come front and he will say that I understood what you said. So sometimes the topic is set and the people are waiting and they're expecting something. And then we also have our mind on certain things, but something completely different comes. So what came in my mind today as I was leaving the house and thinking how to address this issue is to try and explain to the people what's in my mind and how I see the whole issue. But for you to understand how I see it, you have to have that whole picture also in front, which I have in front. To bring that whole picture is a very long story, because you obviously have never seen what I saw. You never read what I read. So we will try and condense a huge world line in a very short space of time and try to bring down to where we found the world when we were born, and how we saw things happening after that, and what we're expecting to happen, how we see matters happening in the world. So to start it off, and thereafter in between certain things will be mentioned, and then you will try and reach where I am trying to go to. The first thing to understand is that our war with Iblis started the day Adam alayhi salam was made. From that time a war began of proving who is faithful and who is not faithful. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala handed over to the shayateen a great amount of power, which inshallah we will discuss later on. And they went about their ways. Only that person will understand how they did it, who has studied every error, every shaitani trap. And that person, one benefit he has over the other is, as Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned, a believer normally doesn't get bit twice from the same hole. In that he made indication that shaitan's tricks never change. It got the same pattern, but because it happens in a new era, the people of that era don't know what happened in the previous era. But if the dead man of 100 years before had to come and say, hey, I saw this whole lie already, I will tell you what's going to happen, but he's not going to come because he's dead. And no one's going to go in the books of history and read about it because no one got time to read. So what will happen is the old trick will have a new effect again. So to understand how the world progressed, we will start from an era which is known as Nabi Daniel alayhi salam. The reason why he became so important to this ummah was two. One was in his era, there were two dreams that was going to set the course of the world. And the second thing is Daniel alayhi salam made a dua that he wants to be buried by the people of the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Like he was waiting for this nation. But Daniel alayhi salam came right at the beginning of eras. So Allah Tabarak Ta'ala would accept his dua in the manner that when he passed away, the people felt that this is a Mubarak man. So instead of burying him in the ground, they kept him out in their chamber. And whenever there wasn't rains, they would take him out and the rains would come on the barakah of his body. When Sahaba radiallahu anh conquered that place in Iraq, Tustur most likely the place was called. So they went into this chamber where they were finding the gold, the silver, and they found a body. And on the body of that person was a ring, and there were some scrolls. So the Sahabi radiallahu anh, Abu Musa Ash'ari radiallahu anh would ask the people that who is this? So they would say, this is the noble man, Daniel. And he would ask, what's this ring? He would ask, what's the scrolls? So he would write to Umar radiallahu anh. Umar radiallahu anh said, the ring, it's like nafal. Meaning I give it over to the leader as a gift, because of which Abu Musa Ash'ari radiallahu anh kept it till the ending. As for the body, I want it now to be buried in such a manner that after this no one must know where it's buried. Otherwise they will take it out again. So what he had, people who were going to be slaughtered already. He brought them to a certain place and he told them to dig graves. So they must have dug about 20 graves. And thereafter, majority of them who were going to be executed for the crimes that they had done, they were executed, there were a group left. So that group, he had them bury him in one and then they were executed. When Abu Musa Ash'ari radiallahu anh left that area, it was only him and maybe one other person who really knew where Daniel alayhi salam was buried. Because so many areas had been dug. And in that they had hope that now his grave will never be touched. Then for the scrolls, Umar radiallahu anh wrote that you send this back to Medina Munawwara. It was written in another language. So there was a man called Ka'b Ahbar, who was a man of the previous scriptures. He knew the language. Umar radiallahu anh would ask him translate it. He translated in the Arabic. Very few people had the chance of reading it. Abu al-Aliya, a senior of the Tabi'in, said, I read it. So someone asked him what was in it. So he mentioned many things, but one thing he said is, a lot of the incidents that the world will see at the ending, I saw it there. But very little was ever mentioned of it from the Muslim sources. Because Umar radiallahu anh, when he realized that people are going to get caught up with this Daniel alayhi salam prophecies, and it's not known how much of it is exactly his writing, how much is not his writing. So Umar radiallahu anh said, I don't want anyone narrating it. After that, Ka'b Ahbar would narrate many things which he would see, the man would see one day. But he would never ever say, I read this in the scroll of Daniel alayhi salam. So somewhere he learned it. And some of them are unique. One example, in the kitab called the Sunan of Dani, in the chapter of Kitabul Fitan, there is a narration of Ka'b Ahbar. He says that when you will see, coming from the west, the different flags gathering together under one man, Rajulun min Canada, the Kaf, Noon, Dal, and with the round talk could be read with Kinda, or it could be read as Canada. Rajulun min Canada A'raj, a man who's lame, who's limp, who's walking with a limp. A man from Canada walking with a limp, who will be in a military uniform. The word in the narration is in a uniform, which means some uniform, it will be a military uniform. When you will see him leading the armies of the world and falling on the ummah, then you must understand that the time of the coming of Mahdi is very, very close. خروج ألوية من المشرق من المغرب, when you will see the flag coming out from the Maghrib. عليها رجل من Canada أعرج, a man from Canada who's coming, who's lame. So it was a narration which carried on. But unique when I looked at this narration, and at that time I had a lot of interest in 911, what's happening in the world. So we got the news that when, at that time 911, everyone who's here today most likely knows 911 was one big lie, that's all. But when it happened with such a force that everyone was taken in, and only the very keen eye could pick up there's a problem in this. That this 911 is a whole orchestrated matter. Which man knew that aeroplane is going to bang the building, that he had his camera ready for it? Which president in the world will get the news in one ear that America is being attacked, and he will tell the man, give me 8 more minutes, I want to speak to the school children. And he will speak to them normally, he won't bother. And then his people will quickly take him away. And then the way they took him out and how he already said certain things of the attack, whether they never told him. Now only the keen eye would pick up it as a problem. But the man who was looking at the paper when 911 happened, looking on the news, looking on, at that time there was internet, he would never see what a keen eye would see. Because the news only shows one side of the picture. So what happened is, at that time we were in madrasa, and from that time my interest started. My interest started on this man who was the first man appointed to lead the coalition forces against the Muslim nations. Because we were also looking from a man from Canada, and Canada in our understanding could hit exactly with Canada. Otherwise it would have been Kinda, a man from the Arab lands, but he will never take the Western armies. So we saw the man that President George Bush appointed, and it just happened where he's supposed to be an American. So this man, he had a very funny story that somehow, although he was Canadian born, but going through the ways, he managed to become the senior lieutenant in the American army. So it happened to be a man of Canada who was appointed to lead the coalition forces. But this man was not limp. So for the narration to mention A'raj now was a very amazing thing. That so many qualities you mention of a man, but lumping. So it just happened that this colonel had to have an interview in that same week. And the person interviewing asked, what was the hardest when you were given the flags of all the armies? He says, the hardest was that one muscle strain in my leg. For 6 weeks I was unable to walk. I went around limping in the White House. So we saw one limping man coming. And it just happened that someone wrote after that he went onto international television at that time, in his military uniform, limping. And as he limped, the world saw man from Canada limping, taking the flags of the world. And no one will believe that Kaab Akhbar could be narrating from one Daniel alayhi salam, thinking of one man. But these were indications that if a man sees it, they get amazed that how much was mentioned. So now we will mention a few other things that Daniel alayhi salam in his era saw. We will see how we saw it in our life. It doesn't have to be exact, but sometimes it's so apt that you can't miss it. And then from there we will go on where we reach now. In the era of Daniel alayhi salam, there was the king Bukhtanasar. His desire was to destroy the religion of Allah at that time, which was Masjid al-Aqsa. So he came far from the lands of Iraq. He landed in Aqsa with his armies. He massacred the whole land. He killed everyone. And many scholars were taken back to Iraq. Among those scholars was Daniel alayhi salam. Bukhtanasar one night has a frightening dream. He calls his advisors. He asks them interpretation. They were paid so many years. They are sorcerers, magicians. So he says, what's my dream's interpretation? So one bright person, he speaks out and he says, sir, I'll give you the interpretation, but first you mention the dream to me. So Bukhtanasar became upset. He said, you idiot, if I knew the dream, I'm not going to call you people. I can't remember the dream, but it's troubling me. So then one person would laugh and he said, if you don't remember the dream, how can we interpret? Bukhtanasar, you don't laugh in his face. So he said, I give you 3 days. If you can't come with my dream and its interpretation, I'm going to slaughter all of you. And he used to slaughter. So now all of them were now panicky. If you know someone's dream, you make up your own story. If you don't know the dream, you can't make up a story. Daniel alayhi salam is in the prison. He tells the man of the jail, you send the message to the people of the king, that if they want to save their lives, there is Daniel here who knows everything. Allah has revealed it to me. He comes up in front of the king Bukhtanasar. Someone tells him, make sajda. So Daniel alayhi salam is a Nabi of Allah. He says, I make sajda to Allah. So the person says, we will kill you. So he says to the king, before letting that sword touch my neck, remember that if you force me to make sajda, it's not going to be good for you, it's not going to be good for me also. And if you don't force me to make sajda, very good for me, very good for you. He said it so calm that everyone went into silence. The king said, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, see, use your brains. If you force me to make sajda, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no, you're going to get irritated. You're going to get irritated, you're going to point to your man and he's going to send the sword through my neck. I will fall down dead, so not good for me. But on the surface of the earth besides me, no one knows your dream. So when I die, not good for you also. The way he said it, Nasr said, this man with a sword at his throat can talk like Kolimia. When he came forward, he said, let me tell you your dream first. To show you I know what you're talking about. And why I'm mentioning these points is to show you people that I am not just talking from nowhere. And Alhamdulillah, by the fadl of Allah, I have never learned from Google. I have never learned from the internet. We have studied kitab, we have studied tarikh, we have studied with complete i'timad on the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have understood which are authentic, which are slightly weaker, which are allowed to take indication from, where you allowed to take law from, what is called indication, what is called nas, what is called qat'i, what is called zanni. So we are not just saying something from a back pocket because we read it on one internet article. So what happened then? He said to the king, your dream was this year, and very fast. He said, you saw a huge statue. You were admiring the statue, the head was of gold, the chest was of silver, the thigh was of bronze, and from here downwards was of iron. The king was amazed. He said, then you saw one rock coming from the skies. It blasted on the head, and then a meltdown of the entire statue started. Until the statue became like dust, which could never be brought together again, like Humpty Dumpty, could never be put together again. While you were amazed at that day, you saw the rock, the dust that the rock had left also. One was the dust of that material, the metals, it became dust. That was going to go over and never be joined again. But the rock would also break. Another narration will say you saw the rock landing and it became a huge rock filling the area between the skies and the earth. Or the rock broke and its sand would fly all over the world. Whichever was the translation, correct translation. So Nasr was amazed. He said, that's what I saw. Then he said, what does it mean? He said, you have been shown by the Creator that no matter what empires will come to destroy this religion, they will never manage. They will rise very high. The first empire of gold, he said, is your empire. This was the empire of Nasr, was known as the Chaldeans. They ruled in the mightiest of their power for about 70 years. Nasr was at their head. This was the area where Ibrahim a.s. was born also. And it was the mighty Babylonian empire. The most we'll know of Babylon is the land where paper was made, the ancient city of Babylon. So this was the Chaldean, they had the empire. They also fell on religion to destroy religion from the surface of the earth. Said, after you, no empire will be so strong. You will be followed by another empire. That empire was the empire of the Persians. And in school you might have heard of Cyrus the Great. They had their time also, that was an empire. They also tried to destroy the religion of Almighty Allah. They also had the might, they had the propaganda, they had the armies, they had the shaitani backing, but they were not successful. Then you will be followed by a third empire, an empire of bronze. That was the Greek empire that came. And the Greek, you would have all heard in school of Alexander the Great. That was their time. And he again, his desire was to destroy religion from earth. And he had his time, but Allah Ta'ala never allowed religion to die. It would continue. Finally, a nation will come of iron, from here going down. And that nation that came was the Roman nation. In school you would have heard about Augustus Caesar, and you would have heard of Constantine. If you go to Turkey, they'll say Constantinople. Once upon a time it was, now it's called Istanbul. And if you did Islamic tarikh, you will know in the era of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was the Romans and the Persians. They were ruling. And in that time there was Hercules, Herakl, and in the ending he lost everything. So you will see your empires. He spoke about the Chaldeans, he spoke about the Persians, he spoke about the Greek, he spoke about finally the Romans. He said all these empires will come. Finally Allah Ta'ala will send a rock. That rock is known as the rock of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When it will blast so hard that these empires will come crushing to the ground. And Sahaba radiallahu anh saw it in their era. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in his era never made war with the Romans and the Persians directly, physically. They went out but the war never took place. But in the era of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Umar radiallahu anhu, it started and it ended. It brought those empires crashing to the ground exactly as was said. One person wrote lovely on this here, he said that every scholar of the book knew of the coming of that one rock. And they waited for it. Because when they lived through the empires of evil, everyone is waiting, when is the Savior coming, when is the Savior? Like how today everyone says, when is the Mahdi coming, when is Isa alayhi salam coming? They waited. But when the rock came, for some reason of jealousy and stubbornness and the love of fame, those people who recognized the rock acted like the rock never came. So they carried on after that. They saw those empires of Persia and Roman being crushed. They knew this is what is prophesied. This prophecy, what is called a word of a Nabi, is in the Bible up till today. But under it you will see the scholars of the Bible writing, it still never occur. Whereas they know that the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, only one nation destroyed it, the nation of Islam. So thereafter they continue waiting till one day that rock is going to come, that rock blasted. So that passed. It took 1,000 years for it to happen from the time of the dream, but it happened. Now we come to our time. At the end of his life, Daniel alayhi salam himself was going to have a dream. This dream is also in the Bible today. In the dream he says, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven were stirring up the Great Sea. The Great Sea refers to the Mediterranean Sea. Mediterranean means in the west, the world will see something happening. Daniel alayhi salam, now when he asked the angel, what is this? The angel will say, this is going to happen at the end. At the end. Meaning at the end of times. The end of times would have started with the conquest of Constantinople. And from there you would have seen this happening. The winds would stir up the Mediterranean. From there he says, four great beasts would come out of the water. The first, each different from the other. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I watched till its wings were plucked off. It was lifted from the earth, made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a man's heart was given to it. He was speaking of a beast. That this beast will fall on the nation of Allah. The nation of Allah was going to be the Muslims. Muslims were going to be all over in the world. But one beast was going to be created, allowed by Almighty Allah. The beast that the world saw, which resembled a lion, and which made its emblem like a lion, and it made it a lion standing on 2 feet, as Daniel alayhi salam saw, that on every coat of arms they would put that lion. That beast was what was called the small country of England, which became the mighty nation of the United Kingdom. It rose small, but like a lion it was able to go anywhere in the world. How a lion will see buffaloes, many buffaloes, but when they charge, they will do such a thing that the buffaloes will all run away. They'll never think, let me stay together and fight this nation. When the United Kingdom, England, small group, but they had the shaitani powers, they had the weapons, they had the technology, which others never have. All they needed was the mind of the lion, that we will divide and then we will take. We will divide. So first money would go in, they would make infighting happening. When the group would split, they would destroy this group, that group. The world would see a nation. England had its time for many years, but its rise and its height was for about 300 years. During those 300 years, that lion went through the world. We never saw that era, so you won't understand. But if you just know example, how did they come to South Africa? How did they go to America? How did they go to the lands around them? And what did they do to those people? How they killed those people? How they maimed those people? How they oppressed those people? How they made slaves, over millions of slaves. United Kingdom was responsible. So there was a lion. He says, thereafter I saw the second beast. It was a bear. And as it stood up, I heard something being told to it, rise and devour the amount of flesh that you desire. Again, the world after United Kingdom was going to see a second beast. That beast was what was called the Soviet Union. They were a bear in nature and in emblem also. They made the emblem the mighty bear, and wherever they fell, they really showed the people we are bears. They destroyed the Muslim lands where a hadith had been written. They went through it. If you go to the Soviet Union today, you will understand. Where once upon a time there were masajid, they razed everything to the ground. And they also had their era for about 200 years. Thereafter he said, I saw a third beast. This beast was like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings. And thereafter he speaks of the leopard. The leopard in our understanding was what was called Germany. Germany was going to be linked to a leopard because of 2 reasons. One was leopard and panther is the same thing. It's just different names. Germany's army always called itself panther. In their own word, panthers or something. Everything in their military was called panther. And their military strategy was the strategy of the leopard. That we will make lightning war. You attack and you get out immediately, just like a leopard. So that was Germany, and they had their era for about 74 years. All 3 beasts made their war and their target like the previous empires, the Muslim nation. No matter what they took over in the world, religion was their main concern. Wipe out religion. Wherever the United Kingdom went, it was to promote Christianity. It was to promote the Jewish faith. It was to promote atheism. Promote anything, but do not allow one madrasa to stand. Do not allow one alim to stand. Thereafter, when the Soviet Union came, they went everywhere. But to see a Muslim standing, that they could not tolerate. Bring down the masajid. Bring down deen. Atheism must stand up in the world. Germany had its own story also. Although Germany brought the Muslim Khilafat in to work with them, they were responsible for the destruction of the Khilafat. They also did not like religion one. But then we came to the final beast. Now Daniel alayhi salam will say the 4th beast was completely different from the other 3. Yet it was the worst, the most dangerous and the most powerful of all of them. I saw in front of it the other beasts put their heads down as though they became timid. And then he said, I saw 10 horns on the head of the beast. And in the center, as I was looking at those horns, a small horn came out. And this horn, despite being so small, but it said such evil words about the creator of the universe that I was shocked. That it's so bold in its talk. Regarding that 4th beast, now everyone will write today. These again are quotes from the Bible because they got that the dream of Daniel alayhi salam according to their translation. So everyone will try to explain now what was the 4th beast. The 4th beast in our understanding, after those 3 countries came, there was only one country that rose higher than the rest. And that was the United States of America. Why it would be different from the other 3 beasts? Because the other 3 beasts showed their hatred from the beginning. When the United Nations was established, which was going to be United States of America, Army of the world, the first thing they said is, we are establishing the United Nations to make sure there is no more war in the world. And that was the biggest lie. Because after that, whatever war took place on their name. That was why it was different from the other beasts. It stood up smiling. Meaning it would smile, shake your hand, and in the other hand have the gun and shoot you. It would be different. It would be so powerful, the United Nations said, we are going to strip every other warring country of their military power to make sure that war will never take place without our consent. And they did it. Russia lost its military power. Germany would lose it. United Kingdom would use it. Daniel alayhi salam saw 3 beasts putting their heads down. They put their heads down. Then he saw the horns on the beast. Because of another word of Daniel alayhi salam, where he says, a time at the ending will come, where those horns which were on the beast, which the beast would use for punching and poking other people, a time at the end will come where that same horns will turn against the beast. And it will call for the burning of the beast. Because of that, it seems that 10 horns are what we call the Arab nations of the world. That as long as this beast is strong, it will have the leaders of the Arab countries at its disposal. It will use it to prick who it wants, to poke who it wants, to kill who it wants. If it wants to sort out Sham, it got its one horn there. If it wants to sort out Egypt, it will have its one horn there. If it wants to sort out the lands of Hijaz, it got its one horn there. Wherever it wants to sort, it got a horn. That is why the world will say that we got so much of leaders
But no leader can ever tell him stop. The reason is because the horn is still on the head of the beast. As it wants to poke, it pokes. In the center of the horn, meaning in the center of all these nations, most likely Arab nations, he now sees a small horn coming out. That small horn in our understanding is what was called Israel. It was a small country created in the middle of so many powers, that because all those powers are at the disposal of the beast, it could come out and talk such words which left Daniel alayhi salam shocked. So small but so bold. Why? Because it had no fear. Daniel alayhi salam thereafter will explain the destruction of this beast. Another place you will find that they will discuss, another Nabi will say that the angel Jibreel alayhi salam came and told me, let me show you the end, the end, the end. And in the ending what they will see the mighty king, the last beast, it is burning. And someone is saying loudly to it, oh you prostitutes, that made the kings of the world fall in adultery. And we all know that is the country of the United States. That every country's leaders, they bring them into adultery. And then the voice would say to it, oh you rubbish, who made the world fall into your fornication. And how they did that? With the creation of Hollywood, with the creation of your smartphone, with the creation of Google. Every person who puts on, he, his wife, his daughter. When I read that verse, I was amazed. How can you make the whole world fall into fornication with one individual? Here that angel is saying to that one, like a prostitute, he said, oh you prostitute, burn, because you made the whole world fornicate with you. So the only fornication is Hollywood. That husband, wife, child, three people put on television watching one movie. In the movie you see a man, you see a woman, you see them doing the worst and the worst of acts. Father might just look down for a while and then he looks up again to see what's happening. Now you see a magazine, you see a filthy picture. On your Google you will see naked pictures. The world brought in the fornication. Then the angel would say, oh you prostitute, who with your magic you put the whole world in your spell. And the whole world is in the spell today. Because whatever Google says, our head goes like this here. Whatever Hollywood says, our head goes. Whatever the magazines say, our head goes. Whatever CNN says, our head goes. Our fashion is because of a spell. Our talk is because of a spell. We are under one spell. So all that filth that put the whole world in a spell. Hollywood is from holy wood. Holy, H-O-L-Y, and wood. Wood is the wand. When you were small, you heard of the fairy godmother. She got a wand. And with a wand, she goes like this here, and then stars fly. As the stars, whoever it falls on, they are caught in her spell. Hollywood was created for this. To put the whole world in one spell. Whether it's through Disney, whether it's to Hollywood. So he heard the angel saying, oh you prostitute, you put the whole world in your spell. Now is the time to burn. So the time will come when it will burn. Now from there now, so we know where we reached. We reached the time where that prostitute is standing. And amazing when that Nabi would describe the prostitute. He said, the angel showed me a prostitute sitting on the mighty waters. When I looked at that, I said, which nation sat on the mighty waters? It is the United Nations, because they got the greatest military power in the world. So they sit on the waters. And the amazing thing also is the Statue of Liberty also sits on water. And it is also nothing but one prostitute. Statue of Liberty means the statue that cried for the freedom of women from having to cover their bodies, rather sell. And he said the one that was holding in his hand a goblet, and the Statue of Liberty got that goblet in his hand also, taking out that fire. So whatever he saw, we're seeing in our world today. We saw Russia coming and it wasn't indication, wasn't given. We saw Germany, we saw the United Kingdom, and we saw the United States of America. Now we come to those armies when they were going to fall on the Muslim world. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would make certain indication. Again, indication is said because certain of the narrations are not on the level of what is called Bukhari and Muslim standards, from which a Islamic juristic law will come out, a law of fiqh. Your namaz is broken, your namaz is not broken, it's an indication. To take out an indication, sometimes even a weak narration, joined with a couple of others, and you see it happening, it will be more than enough. Speaking of the armies that will fight these nations, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will explain there are going to be two major armies. One will be the army which is from the family of Ishaq alayhi salam. They will be called Banu Ishaq. We know them as Banu Israel. The Banu Israel in today's time, there are about 11 groups of them in the world. From the 11 groups, about 2 groups which we will know is what we call the Pushtun. The Pushtu, what we will say, the Pathan. The Pathan will be either in Pakistan or he will be in Afghanistan. And those that are in one part of Kashmir, they are also from this Banu Ishaq, and they were the ones who accepted Islam. The remaining 9 of the Banu Ishaq, they are in the world, in different countries, and they are Jew. Then the Jew, we know about what we call Ashkenazi Jew. They are not at all from the family of Nabi Ishaq alayhi salam. They are European, they are not in any lineage. When we speak of Jewish lobby, when we speak of the Jews sitting in America, they got nothing to do with any Nabi. They never saw the lands of Sham. They were told by the Shayateen that to let our mission go forward now, you enter into the faith of Moses. You ascribe yourself to Nabi Musa alayhi salam, and the European nation became known as the Ashkenazi Jew. They made their own religion after that. They made the law that if your mother is not a Jew, you can't be a Jew. They made the law of this, they made the law of no touch. You can't tell us anything anti-Semitic. You do not speak about the Jews. They made the stories about Hitler against the Jew. They got nothing to do with Banu Israel. But Banu Israel are 2. One is the one that won't accept. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, when Dajjal will come, from the Banu Israel, so many thousands will follow him. From the lands of Asfahan, Iran. And he also spoke about when Hazrat Mehdi will come, from the Banu Ishaq, Banu Israel, that will be his army. Now to trace where this Banu Israel, Banu Ishaq will be, you will find other narrations, which will make it more clear. One narration will explain they're from the land of Khorasan, from the land of the east. Khorasan got many areas, but Afghanistan gathers majority of Khorasan in it. So you say perhaps it is Afghanistan. Then a narration will explain that these are such people that they will be mujarrab in war. Mujarrab in war means they fought and fought and fought and fought. Like how our cricket is our sport, fighting is their sport. To die becomes their sport. No games, you got no volleyball, no netball. Your game is I kill you, you kill me. I'll kill your father will kill my father. That game. This group here who settled in the lands of Afghanistan, they became so mujarrab in war that whichever nation was a unique nation, which went to these lands, they managed somehow to push them out. The United Kingdom went through the world. They said the sun will never set on our empire. But when they landed in Afghanistan, their sun never rose there. Because they found people who couldn't die. People who were unique in nature, they were pushed out. Thereafter the Soviet Union came. They said we will spend about 7 days in Afghanistan going through it. Already the ground was made, they had their puppets there, everyone was there. And they entered it, and for about 10, 20 years, whatever the war was, they were pulled in, and then they had to make a retreat. When the time of America came, it was like the world was saying, everyone tried Afghanistan, don't try. But they also went in, and we all know what happened to America. They again are coming out. And one of these American soldiers, he wrote very nicely. He said that I'm telling you that these people, they are not like us. They had weapons which were inferior to us. But he said, I remember one man of them, for about 2 kilos, he continued chasing me. And the way he was sending that mortar, which is so heavy to carry, and he was throwing it like a game. So he just explained that these are not normal people. So I understand this one man landed up in a Pathan masjid. So the Pathan told him, you come home for supper. Because there are men who are built in war. And Allah creates people. So he told him, come home for supper. So the man said, no problem, I'll come. As he went out of the masjid, somebody else met him. He said, you come to my house for supper. So he told Khan Sahib, you know what, I already got dawat. So Khan Sahib said, what dawat you got? Who? So he said, so and so. He said, you don't worry about that rubbish, you come eat by me. So he got so scared now, so he went to that person and told him, you know, Khan Sahib. He said, which Khan Sahib? He said, you don't dare, you go to him, I'll kill you. Now this man was more shivering. He went to Khan Sahib, number one. Khan Sahib, he said, you know what, I'd rather go there, he's going to kill me. Khan Sahib said, let him kill you. He kills you, I'll kill him. That's it. He'll die. What you worried about dying? He kill you, you kill, everyone kill. These are those people. We met someone who was in that time just before the American invasion. He said, I sat with them in a mountain and one bomb hit. That time they were having the Northern Alliance war. He said, one bomb hit. I felt that whole thing shaking. So your whole toilet wants to come out. He says, but they were eating their sandwiches and looking out and laughing like nothing. They're laughing there. Why? They grew up created in war. We haven't got that. There was going to be a created army to one day stand with Hazrat Mahdi, which Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, when you will see that army rising, then you must know that the Mahdi is amongst them. Which wouldn't have meant that Hazrat Mahdi is in them. It will mean this is that army rising. Another narration will say that army will one day re-establish the flag in Masjid al-Aqsa. For which reason, which every beast that came up, it had to make its mission Afghanistan. It's because they also know that that is the army. As long as that army is not allowed to grow, you got no problem. But one mistake they made, that every time again they went in, instead of destroying the army, they created a new army. If they went in and there was a small group of Taliban, 1,000, after bombing, when they came out, they say now there's about 20, 25, 30,000. Where they came, as you put force, Allah Ta'ala makes it rise. So every time they made war, they created, but today we are seeing an army that is ready for anything. That was the first army. The second army of Hazrat Mahdi is going to be the army in the lands of Sham. And in Sham, especially Damascus, because that is the capital of Hazrat Mahdi. The rest of the world, Arabs will join, but that's the center. Knowing this year, the Shayatini forces made an effort that in the land of Sham itself, what is called Damascus and around, so much effort was made when the Khilafat was destroyed, that there must not be a single individual in that land who forget jihad, he even has relations with Islam. So what they had to do, they would appoint a Shia leader in charge, that's all. And they would make sure the first thing that he did is he massacred the ulama. Because when the ulama come out, there are no one to tell you that someone is pulling you in a trap. So quietly the ulama were wiped out. When the people were left, this Shia shaitan, he never bothered about killing individuals. All he did is he established schools. And he brought them into a Western culture. And he removed completely Quran from their lives. Because Quran is their deen, they know the language. Quran was taken out. So a person would have always thought that if I visited the land of Damascus, Sham, around it, I can't. The one army of Afghanistan is there from the beginning. But where's the second army? There's no second army. And we always troubled us, where is the army? Because these people are all secular. Secular is what we are. A Gujarati is called, what is called far from jihad. How you know it? A Gujarati man, if he tells his wife, he puts on his sleeping bag, say, where you going? Say, jihad. She says, you mad, you come help me make samosas. Ramadan is coming. Your child has to go to school. And if that man even goes, with someone asked me, a Gujarati man in the army of Hazrat Mahdi, what will he do? I said, I am sure Hazrat Mahdi will tell him, my friend, you're going to spoil the war. Because you go front, one bullet, doesn't work, lad. So Hazrat Mahdi will say, you people are good for making dead food. So you have run the food, we will fight. Or he will say, ilm. The spreading of ilm has been made your share. Establish makatib in the world. Establish the ta'aleem of deen. Allah Ta'ala got His own unique armies. And everyone will have his share in this world. But it will be a unique force. But that force was not there in the lands of Damascus. Allah Ta'ala got His own system also. Suddenly there was an Arab uprising. And how it rose like no one knew how it rose. They would say that some boys drew something and then the guards got irritated, they took them to the prisons, they tortured them. But how it rose is Allah Ta'ala, when He makes a spark, He just bursts. Suddenly everyone in those lands were fighting. They want justice, they want justice. Now that Shia leader was gone, but his son Bashar al-Assad is in charge. When he sees everyone rising, he has to now go wild. Before that he was not going wild, because there was never an uprising. That uprising, however, was taking place on whose hands? Not anyone who was die-hard for jihad. It was taking place on the hands of mothers who were hurt that how could you do this to my son? It had nothing to do with religion. So they stood up. And then when he made his attack on simple farmers, on simple houses, on simple businessmen, he created an army to die for Islam. Because when that father now saw that my whole house is blown down, and he's looking at that house, then one burn comes in his heart. And he knows now, I got no school, no education, nothing to rely on. I'm a doctor but no one to see a patient, no money to make. And even that farmer who never knew how to shoot was now going and asking that man who knew how to shoot, you got a gun for me? And if today you go in that land, you will now ask a small child, who maybe 40 years ago if you asked her what she want for Eid, she would have said a smartphone, where I can press buttons. But today you go and ask her, she will say, I want a Kalashnikov. I want a gun. Ask her what you want to do with the gun. Say, I want to blow the head of the one who took my father, who took my grandfather. Now someone created who is born inside you. And when that group becomes big, then Allah Ta'ala's second army of Hazrat Mahdi will be ready. And a time will come when Hazrat Mahdi will come that everyone will be ready. Madaris will be ready, Makatib will be ready, fighters will be ready, everyone will be ready. But Allah Ta'ala got a system of setting his arms. The enemy wa makaru, they make their own plan. On top of that plan, Allah Ta'ala works his own plan. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's da'wat wasn't reaching far. The enemies, they became scared. So they said, any man who enters Makkah Mukarramah, we will tell that man, that don't you dare go to that madman, na'udhu billah. When they would say this to the man would say, like, Makkah Mukarramah wasn't big like today, but it was big. The chance of that man meeting Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was like 2-3%. But now when they would tell him, don't go meet the man, obviously they will say, let me go meet the man. And they would come and someone would say, I went to him specially for the purpose of telling him that, you know, I have treated a lot of people who had gone off. So I will treat you. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam will say, before treating me, let me read something to you. He said he would read some verses of Quran and I was left shocked. One man, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, never even read Quran to him. He just said, Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh. نؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. And he stopped. That man said, I have mastered Arabic from the beginning till the end. But this man in his language reached the depths of the ocean. Wallah, this is not a normal man. And he said, take out your hand, I want to accept Islam. How they came to know Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because the enemy had a plan, and on top of their plan, Allah Ta'ala got a unique plan for them. So a system is being laid, the world is being prepared. As the world gets prepared, Shaitan had many tricks. Before coming on to the trick of the time, we will speak about a few tricks of the past. After Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam passed away, before passing away, he told Sahaba radiallahu anhu, from the land of Saqif, watch out. One Dajjal will come. One Mubir will come, who was Hajjaj bin Yusuf, we all know about. But he spoke about one Dajjal will come. And he will be so unique in covering up. Dajjal means a man who covers up. That you don't pick up what he's up to until it's too late. So he mentioned that. Ali radiallahu anhu in his era, or just before that in the time of Usman radiallahu anhu, at the ending, Usman radiallahu anhu was martyred. There were a lot of hypocrites now, but a hypocrite is covered. So you don't know who's the liar, who's not the liar. Who's the innocent person and who's not innocent. Ali radiallahu anhu knew who entered the house of Usman radiallahu anhu, but he knew some of them entered not with the intention to kill. They entered wanting to ask some questions which they couldn't understand. And others went to kill. If Ali radiallahu anhu now had to say, I'll kill all of them, he knew it's not fair. And if you have to ask them, then the liars will say, obviously I never wanted to kill. So Ali radiallahu anhu told Muawiyah radiallahu anhu that at the moment I cannot take qisas. It's not easy at the moment. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, he wanted to kill all of them. Whoever entered the house, some intentionally, some unintentionally, but kill all of them. And a small rift started. Inside there were hypocrites. The hypocrites were going to now make havoc. They were going to make the Muslim Ummah fight. So that war took place. Whoever studied Islamic Tariq knows about it. We're not speaking about that. We will speak at the end of the war. A time came where Ali radiallahu anhu and Muawiyah radiallahu anhu said, let's stop. let us make truce. Let's have an arbitration. So there was a group on the army of Ali radiallahu anh, when they heard of the stopping the war, they became upset. Why they became upset? Because their purpose was to make the war continue. So they pulled away, and because of pulling away, they were called Khuruj Khawarij. So they went to an area called Haruriya and they stopped there. Ali radiallahu anh was not going to attack them because for so many years, they were his fighters. So he felt it's a misunderstanding, leave them, they will understand. They waited for 1 year, the arbitration was going to take place. Sahaba radiallahu anh met up, they tried to arbitrate the issue, it never worked. So finally they came back. When they came back now, Ali radiallahu anh said, since there was no arbitration, we will restart the war. So some people would be sent to those people that you all wanted the war. We are now going back to fight the people of Sham, come join us. So when that person came, one person took out his sword and he almost killed him. He hit the back of the horse and that Sahabi radiallahu anh managed to get out. And he couldn't understand that now they wanted the war. I'm going to call them for the war, now they almost kill me. He would mention to Ali radiallahu anh, Ali radiallahu anh would feel when we come back we will sort it. So they carried on. As soon as his army went towards Sham, this group was now free to cause havoc amongst the people who had not gone out. Meaning the wives, the children, the women. And how they would make the havoc, it started on one principle. They said that Allah Tabarak Ta'ala in Quran said, Al-Hukmu Lillah. To make decisions is only for Allah. Now what the verse meant was that the final decision in all matters is for Allah. It doesn't mean man can't arbitrate, because Almighty Allah doesn't send down in someone's dream what you must do. In this world man talks. And those hypocrites knew it also. They also understood Quran. But when you want to bluff people, you can pick up any ayah. So they said, because the verse said only Allah can arbitrate, and this man Ali allowed for an arbitration, that means he's a kafir. Because he's gone against the verdict of Almighty Allah. Now this was a group of non-Sahaba passing a verdict of kufr on Sahaba, which you will never think possible. But it could happen, because shaitan got one trick. Now when they said they are kafir, suddenly whoever is left behind, the law in Islam is if you kafir, you are wajibul qatl. They kill you. So they came to an area where they started killing. And killing in a very barbaric manner. Because killing with the intention, I'm getting sawab in this killing. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would mention that the first group that you will see come out of Islam like an arrow. Like an arrow means just yesterday they were yours, and suddenly they will change over. Will be one group that when you will see their salah, their fasting and their jihad, it will leave you shocked. But when you will know what's inside them, you will understand the beautiful Quran they read also has no effect on their heart, and it doesn't go up to Almighty Allah. And then he said to Sahaba radiallahu anh, if you find this group, kill them from beginning till the ending. And he would even mention how their leader will be. And Sahaba radiallahu anh waited for it. Now Ali radiallahu anh gets the news that your own brothers who fought with you for so many years have done the worst of acts on the basis of takfir. Everyone is kafir. And how terrible was the act. And this is one point I will tell you which you must remember. This is a shaitani trait this. This group grabbed a Sahabi radiallahu anh and his wife. And now they're taking them to an area where other people will witness either the execution or the tawbah of the Sahabi. As they are going past, they pass by a pig. So one of their men take a spear and he puts it in the behind of the pig. And the pig will scream and it will die. The other man will hit him and he will say, this is a creation of Almighty Allah. You were taught by Islam to have mercy on all animals. How could you do this? Make tawbah. So the man will say, I'm so sorry, I won't do it. Then they will walk past, they would find a date on the ground. So one man would pick up the kajur. Kajur is like you find it on the ground. So as he's putting it in his mouth, the man will hit his hand. And he will say, who's the owner of the date? He will say, I don't know. Say, how can you eat a date without the permission of the owner? So the man will say, I'm so sorry. That showed what piety this group had. Now they reach the area. They say to the Sahabi radiallahu anh, is Ali a kafir? Do you make tawbah from kufr? Because you also accepted arbitration. So he will say, in accepting arbitration, what kufr is there? They will say, do you make tawbah? Do you declare Ali as a kafir? So he will not. Why? Because he's not answering verdict of kufr is passed by the judge. And day he is cut. As the Sahabi radiallahu anhu falls, and Sahaba radiallahu anhu were ready for death. But now they turn to his wife. Remember, Islam never allowed that woman must be brought down in warfare. Because they're not fighters unless they come with their weapons themselves. So they turned to his wife when she realized they're barbarians. But remember, they were not barbarians. They were the ones who they were fighting with for so many years. They were our brothers. But suddenly they kill my husband in front of my eyes. So the woman says, I am pregnant. Have mercy on my child. So the man says, then very good. And he walks and he puts the knife here. And he slits the belly. And he puts his hand in and the woman falls down dead. And he pulls out the fetus. Ali radiallahu anhu will get this news also, that do you know what they did to your selected companion and his wife? So now he stops. He says, forget the war of Sham. I don't know what's wrong with my brothers. Let's go back. Now they will come, so that group will run away again. Ali radiallahu anhu will find out how big have they gone. They've gone to over 12,000. So he will say, what are they confused about? They are confused that how could you accept arbitration? This is kufr. So Ali radiallahu anhu will say, we will send the men of knowledge to speak to them. The greatest of Quran at that time is Ali radiallahu anhu, Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu. Ali radiallahu anhu won't go himself because they don't believe that they are kafir. But Abdullah bin Abbas, when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said he is the ocean of Quranic knowledge, say you go. Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu will come. He will tell them, ask me any verse of Quran. I was there, I know the beginning, I know the ending, I know the place of revelation, I know it all. Ask me and I will tell you. But accept my knowledge over your opinion. But when a man is pulled in a shaitani spell, then even if a man of great knowledge like Ali radiallahu anh tries to explain the reality, the man will say, you know nothing, we know it all. Because we saw what's on the ground, you're not seeing it. So Abdullah bin Abbas will say, it doesn't mean this verse doesn't mean that. But when he comes back, he will look at Ali radiallahu anh. Ali radiallahu anh, even before he's going, he says, when you go to them, argue with them not on the basis of Quran. Because any verse you will say, they will say it means something else. Argue with them on the basis of the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is more clear. But that group was not going to accept. So he will come back to teach that even if the ulama in every era mention to the people what is true in the light of Quran and Sunnah, there will be many who are gripped by a shaitani spell. If they could never accept Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu's tafsir, they're not going to accept anyone's tafsir. But there will be others who will open up and say, you know what, it shouldn't be I'm also grabbed in a spell. So Ali radiallahu anhu will say, now I only got one trick up my sleeve. And what he understood that in that 12,000, there are some that are sincere. And there are some that are hypocrites. Hypocrites don't like to die. So he made an announcement that whoever will walk to a certain flag, when the fight will start, if we catch you, you will not be killed. You will be pardoned immediately. When he mentioned death, from the 12,000, 11,000 started walking. 1,000 was left. But who was that 1,000? The 1,000 were not the hypocrites. They were many of the sincere people who couldn't understand how can they desert us. We're fighting for a mission. This is the truth. Few of them were hypocrites. Majority were sincere. The fight would take place. 1,000 could never stand. The hypocrites saved their lives. Why? So we can carry on in another day. Because they knew we were going to lose the war. They're not ready to die. Sincere people that day, from the 1,000, maybe about 700 to 800 died. 200 to 300 were taken as capture. Ali radiallahu anh said, take the wounded away. At that time, someone asked the question which will explain a lot of today. That you see this 1,000, are they kafir? Are they jahannami? What are they? So Ali radiallahu anh speaking about the sincere amongst them, because many were sincere people who were pulled in a shaitani trap. He said, these are our brothers. Baghaw alayna, who stood up and rebelled against us because shaitan had pulled them in his trap. That explains when someone asks today, if a person is fighting in the wrong army and he dies, what happens? So the answer is, if his intention was good, then Allah Ta'ala will raise him on his intention. But if that man has to go and make a war with another Muslim and kill him, then he will be questioned, how could you raise your sword on a believer? And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam knew it's going to happen so well. For which reason, to two of his selected Sahaba, he became extremely upset. One was Hazrat Usama bin Zayd radiallahu anh, who was known as the beloved of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because he was like the grandson. It happened that in a certain battle, he killed the enemy after the enemy at the last moment, when seeing death in front, said, La ilaha illallah. And it was understood he's saying La ilaha illallah is a hypocrite, just to save his life. The news will reach. The Sahabi would say, Oh Allah's Nabi, it's obvious he only said La ilaha illallah to save his life, because he saw his sword coming. The Sahabi will say, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam turned away. He would ask, did you cut open his stomach to see in his heart whether the La ilaha illallah was sincere or wasn't sincere? Then he would say, what will you do on the day of Qiyamah, when La ilaha illallah will come in front of you? And you will have to answer, how could I raise a sword against you, O La ilaha? Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh, also a certain incident happened. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would say, Oh Allah, I am bari, Oh Allah, I am bari, Oh Allah, I am bari. Khalid radiallahu anh later on will prove that what he had done was right. In the time of Umar radiallahu anh, again something will happen, again he will prove what he had done was right. But Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would make so much indication that if you have to take the life of someone who got kalima on his tongue, make sure you can stand in front of Almighty Allah and you can say with 100% conviction, this man was a kafir. Then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam knew the time will come where everyone will be calling the other one kafir, because it opens up the net of shaitan. So he made it so scary. He says that person who issues a verdict of kufr on another, whereas that person is not worthy of it, the verdict of kufr will bounce back upon his head, and he will meet Almighty Allah in that condition, whatever it had to mean. He showed so clearly, don't ever make someone a kafir, because that's how the game starts, of pulling people into a trap. So this war took place. So Ali radiallahu anh said, they are our brothers. But shaitan had pulled them into a trap. That was the Khawarij. And how they were so good on one side, how they were so evil. Then we will come down history to show shaitani traps. We will come to the era where now the Western world, meaning the beasts, they saw the opportunity to break the Khilafat. For breaking the Khilafat, they understood to kill a Muslim nation. There are two ways. One is the way of persecution, and one is the way of what is called emotion. Both ways were tried in the past. The example of it is, Nabi Isa alayhi salam came. His miracles changed thousands of people. The Jews could not see things happening. So what would happen? They started persecution. But persecution sometimes creates more followers. Suddenly you get a man called Paul standing up. Paul is also a Jew. He is known to be an evil Jew. He caused persecution to the Christians for years. He comes in front of the Christians and he says, I had a vision. I was walking in the field and the Almighty came in front of me. I fell to the ground and it shouted me. And it said, oh Paul, why are you persecuting my people? Will you stop? So Paul said, I'll stop. He said, now go and make amends. So Paul came to the Christian and said, I'm so sorry my brothers. He was wealthy, he was powerful, and he was a good speaker. No one worries you except Tawbah, welcome, welcome. But every person who accepts Tawbah cannot be put on the mimbar the next day. He must have a sanad of ulama who all say we trust him, we know him. He never pop out from anywhere. That I had one dream yesterday and I became Shaykhul Hadith tomorrow. Someone gave me khilafat in my dream. It doesn't work. There is a sanad of i'timad. In hadith there is a sanad. I narrate from him, I narrate from him, I narrate from him. They gave me permission to narrate hadith. In jihad also there is sanad. He fought in this battle, that battle, that battle. This commander put i'timad on him here, that commander put. We saw him putting his life in front so many times. This man we can trust. There is sanad in many things in Islam. Had the sanad not been there, any man tomorrow can put on a nice khanka topi and he becomes the Khalifa of the khanka. But you don't work, lads. Nations of the past were brought down because all you had was Jews who acted like Christians. They became the popes of all the mighty churches. And then they passed a verdict that all along we were angry with the Jew. Why they kill God? But today we're going to say we make all the Christians maaf, all the Jews maaf. You killed my God yesterday, never mind. God taught us to forgive and forget. We will now fight with you against the Muslims. They only did it because they took over the Christian world. Islam came with a guarantee of protection. But that protection was put in the hands of the ulama. That no matter how much of emotion is created, a man of knowledge will tell you, hold on my friend, I smell a rat. Don't just jump for everyone's talk. So Paul stood up. Paul got the gathering. He started his fancy stories, his love stories, his stories of the greatness of Isa alayhi salam. More and more people were pulled towards him. And then he started saying things that the companions, the Hawariyin of Isa alayhi salam had never heard. So they would tell the people that, watch out, we never heard this. So Paul would say that they never understood the message of the Master. I am meeting him in my dreams every night. And those Hawariyin would also pull away from Paul. Paul would have his own faith. They would have their own faith. But the faith of Paul would come what is called today modern day Christianity. How his word spread? Because he was pushed by the shaitani forces. They would never attack the followers of Paul. He would have money, he would have popularity, he would have the talks. What the Hawariyin never had, what pulls the youth, Paul had it. Paul did it, so they said we can do it again. The Khilafat was destroyed. The worst place, or the main place for the world to attack was where the Khilafat was. It was in Istanbul, Turkey. How to make sure it's broken to pieces? There was some group called Young Turks. Young Turks had gone over to Britain. They had their training in Britain. When they came back, the Khalifa was still there, although a weak Khalifa. He and the Young Turks never saw. They were modern, they were atheistic, they were satanic in nature. He was a person weak in Iman but a Muslim. They could not see eye to eye. But when the Khilafat or the Muslim Khilafat was broken and Turkey managed to save themselves, what happened? As the United Forces of the world, in that time it was the United Kingdom, when they came onto Turkey and they had taken over so many lands already, everyone was worried of independence. So suddenly when the Turkish forces started fighting the mighty English forces, it happened one group managed to win. Who was the leader of the group? A man who would later on be called Kamal, whether that was his name, but Aturtuk means Allah selected. Why was Allah selected? Because he fought the British and they ran. Why they ran? Either they ran because he really fought them, or they ran because he was a young Turk trained in Britain. So the law was, when you will meet this man, you must run. So they ran. The word spread in Turkey that this man defeated the forces. He was joined with a bigger group. He defeated the forces. Third group he defeated. In a short space of time, his popularity went through Turkey. That because of this man, he saved our independence. So Kamal was put in charge of the military. The Khalifa was in charge of Islamiyat. Then the two of them rose. A Khalifa in charge of Islamiyat is like the Alim in charge of a Muslim school. He's not the principal, he's just a name in the ending. The principal, everyone knows who's the principal. You don't play my game, I'll get you out also. The Khalifa was the same. A time came when the Khalifa told Kamal, you're overdoing it. The Grand Mufti of Istanbul came to Kamal and he said, your verdict is against this Quran. So Kamal took that Quran and threw it in his face. Said, you and your Quran get lost. People were shocked. The Khalifa was accused shortly of spoiling the Muslim world, stealing money, so he was put in jail. And Kamal said that this Islamiyat and Khilafat don't go. And there must only be one leader, and the Khilafat even in Turkey was destroyed. Kamal now stood up. After he stood up with no one to stand against him, he broke the entire religion in Turkey. When I met a Turkish man, now they're coming out of it. So I asked him, you know how to read Quran? He said, no. I said, why? He said, because of our leader Kamal, he banned the teaching of Quran. So I said, yes, I know, he was a very evil ruler. He says, no, he was a good man. Why? He saved our country. So I wanted to tell the man, but it was hard to talk. that he saved your country but he robbed your deen. That is called emotion. That all you have to do is be smart. Smile and take everyone with you to Jahannam. It works and it works better. So in the Arab lands, they said the way to do it is put modern rulers. Modern rulers will not fight the people, but they will remove the ulama, bring the people into schools, make them modern in nature, satanic in mind, and you got no Islam, although you got Muslim names. And it was all working wonders. That's how they carried on. Now when Bashar al-Assad found himself on the verge of collapse, and we all remember the time, or we're supposed to remember it. At that time in the news, you would see, because of the filthy pictures that were taken in Syria, of what Bashar was doing to the simple farmers in Syria. Even people from America could not witness that. So they called upon the mighty United Nations, why don't you go and you help the people in Syria? So at that time I remember reading America's answer. They said that at the moment the situation is very volatile. We don't want to get involved in Sham, whatever big story. So no problem, they never got involved. Those farmers suddenly became fighters. Every farmer now is shooting. And Bashar is on the verge of collapsing. But if Bashar collapses, the army of Hazrat Mehdi is created. And where can Shaitan allow? So plan B has to go back in motion. Plan B is now bring again another kafir force. But can a kafir force manage now in Syria? It will not work, because already your mighty animal, the last animal you're sitting with, is caught in the war of Iraq. And he's caught in the war of Afghanistan. And they got no more soldiers. So who are you going to bring now? So what you bring a group like the Khawarij, which came in that era. That a group from amongst the believers, if they can stand, and they can make the believers start fighting amongst themselves. But how can a group suddenly stand? So they did it in the past. They did it with the Khawarij. They did it with Paul. They did it with Kamal. They did it with many Arab leaders. They just could do it again. But to do it, you need certain powers. And we will bring it to an end on these powers. When someone asks, how do you know a group is right or wrong? So definitely you cannot say. But Islam has taught two things. One is always go to the ulama, because they see certain things which you don't see. And alhamdulillah, they don't see Google. But they see certain things in the light of Quran which you missing. The second thing is, certain errors Allah Ta'ala has set for an evil group to always make, unintentionally, which shows that they are wrong. To start on the second point first, the other day when we were in Roshni, I mentioned this point, some people understood it very well. Allah Ta'ala in Quran makes indication to incidents when there is unique lesson in it. Yusuf alayhi salam's story, incident we all know. We know at the beginning when the brothers felt of putting him in the well, they said, how are we going to tell our father he has been eaten by a wolf? So what they did is, they took his qamis and they dipped it in blood. But they missed one thing, that if a wolf attacks you, he tears the qamis. They forgot to tear the qamis. They took out the qamis. So when they came to Yaqub alayhi salam, he looked at the qamis and immediately he understood, wow, what a unique wolf, that he undressed my son. False blood was the word Quran used, bidamin kadibin, that search for false blood. Whenever you will see an error at the initial stage, forget the whole story after that. Because if it starts on a lie, the whole thing is a lie. When Mr. ISIS blew to power, I don't follow Google much. However, I have friends who are a little bit into the internet, so when something happens, they come and ask me, and then I tell them, tell me a couple of things. And in those couple of things, now we try and reach a solution. I looked for the error. Why? Because my Khamisa, my Mishkat year, was the year of 911. We were sitting in our Mishkat dars, and one student, he gave me one tap and he said, America is under attack. So everyone is shocked, America under attack. That night, that day we eating in the mess, and someone is saying, yeah, with a kitchen knife, They managed to take over the aeroplane and they did this, and we all said, wow. And the next day in class, everyone is talking that who could it be? Iraqi soldiers, maybe Afghanistani soldiers. Muslims are powerful. And after 1 week, when we realized we were all made like fools, a lot came in my mind that the next time when something big happens in the world, al-anatu min Allah. Don't jump to a conclusion. Take it easy. Look at it in the eye of Yaqub alayhi salam. When Yaqub alayhi salam saw the blood, he never immediately get caught in emotions and grab his face and say, oh my son. But he looked at the blood again. 911 happened, which we mentioned at the beginning. Whoever looked at it without the scene that was shown by the West, he would have seen things behind that there. He would have said, how can a building collapse straight? Buildings collapse this way or that way. If you hit it with an aeroplane, the top part goes, the bottom part doesn't go. He would have seen so many things, but he mustn't see what was shown. So when this thing happened, it came in my mind, is there error at the beginning? Like this cartoon issue happened recently. So I asked someone that, tell me what happened. So he said this group reached by car. And then this group jumped out of the car and they went into the building and they started firing. So I said, how you know they came by car? So he said someone had taken it on camera. So I said, which man knew on that day I must be sitting with my camera on one car? And then he told me, it makes sense. It makes sense. You're not supposed to be there with a camera on that day. When that man knew that aeroplane was going to hit, you knew there's a problem. What was the lie in ISIS which they missed? There was two. One was ISIS blew to fame when Mr. Jihadi John slaughtered that man. That's what the world learned ISIS. They saw it on the Star, they saw it in the papers, they saw it everywhere. That there was a man here sitting. He's supposed to be a non-Muslim. Non-Muslim shivers for death. He knows he's going to Jahannam. But this man sat calm. He wasn't shivering because he knew I'm not going to die. And there was, his head was covered. Jihadi John, who they knew already, but for some reason he's covering his face. But the funny part was the knife. When Jihadi John moved the knife, it moved 1, it moved 2, it moved 3, it moved 4. How many times it moved? Then the picture ended. Whoever saw the clip perhaps never saw this, because your mind made you think that obviously if the knife is moving, it means blood is coming out. The next clip that was shown after a small 1-second cut was a man on the ground. There was blood on here, and there was a slightly different color of skin here. For which reason some masters who were sitting in America even wrote immediately that there is a problem in this clip, that a knife that moves with such force, on the second move supposed to have the spilling of blood. But blood never came out. The blood knife moved, clip ended, and then you had a dead man. So everyone's mind when knife moved, dead man means blood did come out, but blood never come out. If ISIS was a true group, and America was scared that the world is going to be caught up in the fear of a Muslim jihadi group, day and day, not me, they would have announced through the world, because CNN is there, that this is a major lie. Everyone look, knife moving. Everyone look, no blood. They liars, don't be scared. But what happened? That day in the news, a small article came that there are some questions about this clip which are being verified by the FBI, and the next day forgotten forever. Meaning don't ever mention there was a problem with Jihadi John. When the beginning started on a lie, you would wonder why didn't America want the world to know that Jihadi John never slaughtered anyone. The second was the name. I asked my friend, what is ISIS? I'm not in this thing much. But I asked him, what is ISIS? So he told me Islamic State of Syria. So I asked that, but isn't ISIS is an English word? And that's a lot of people never thought about it. If you are an Arab fighting Mujahid group, you will make an Arab label for your group. You will not make a South African, British, American ISIS. Because the Arab doesn't have I stands for Islamic. He got Alif. And he hasn't got any word state in his vocabulary. He got Jamaat. And he hasn't got Off. And he hasn't got Syria in his vocabulary. He doesn't know who is ISIS. We know who is ISIS. So who taught us who is ISIS? The Mujahid couldn't have said, I am the leader of ISIS. So who made the name? It had to be an English-speaking person. Which English-speaking person? One English-speaking person who sat in the world where they make names. The word ISIS was created to pull the European world into a lie. They could not be. Then some will say, no, their name is not ISIS, it's some other name. But who made the name ISIS? If your name is Hizbullah, you can't say another group will come say, I'll rename you with the English name, so the English people will know what your name is. They will say, they are Hizbullah, they are Hizbut Tahrir, they are Hizbut this, they are this Jamaat. ISIS, they hit a mistake in the name. And for what reason? In my understanding, and this is just an understanding, years ago, in the era when Satanism was at its peak, there were two gods which would be worshipped the most, who had the most power. One is what I understand as Dajjal, the other could also be Dajjal. Horus. You will learn of Horus if ever you travel to Egypt. In Egypt, you will see some signs, that's Horus. Or if you look at the Egypt magazine, when sitting and reading a magazine, you will see Horus. And you will wonder, who is this Horus? Because Egypt is a Muslim country. Then you will think about, I got something called horoscope. Who is Horus? Horus was a shaitan worshipped. It's Dajjal in my understanding. With Horus, number 2 in line was a god called Isis. I-S-I-S. Whether they named it after their god or what they named it for. But it wasn't a Muslim man who thought of that name. That was a Shaitani-inspired name. That's why to translate ISIS as Islamic State is not right. You rather just say ISIS because we don't know what it stands for. We thinking it stands for Islamic State. It could stand for anything. Those were the two. When you picked up there was a lie at the beginning, now you hold on. Now you look for the other problems. Allah Tabarakala in the Quran said, to Shaitan, I will give you certain powers. Whoever you find has these powers, watch out for them. No matter what kurta they come with. وَاسْتَفْزِزْ مَنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ مِنْهُمْ بِصَوْتِكَ. Almighty Allah said, I will put the power of voice in your hands. Shaitan always had voice with which he could speak to the world. But in today's time, his voice means it reaches us through the media. It reaches us through the computers. It reaches us through the phones, through the magazines. CNN, BBC, Fox, it will never speak the religion of Islam. It will speak the voice of Shaitan. It was put in their hands. You will wonder why BBC and CNN says the same thing. Because behind the scenes they got the same Lord. They got the same Master who will allow what to be said in the world. Make the whole world say yes to one thing, no to the other thing. When the world's network supports a group, either directly or indirectly, you must say there's something happening here. How you understand it? We all know Afghanistan. We all know Taliban. We all know Taliban reached a time when 90% of Afghanistan they took over. They were on the verge of taking over the last. During that time, they also established Dawlatul Islamiyah. They also established a time where a woman would walk and no one would attack her. They also established Islamic hudud. And we learned of this from the ulama. But the newspapers never said it. Why they never said it? Because they will never invite towards the truth. Purposely or directly or indirectly. They never mentioned it. Now at the moment the war in Afghanistan still continues. But you don't know and I don't know why. Because the news doesn't speak about it. They are speaking like it's finished already. It's not finished. Where if we can finish it? America will never allow that group of mujahideen to take over. But why we don't know? Because the news don't talk. Now when the news talks, they talk in two angles. Direct and indirect. Direct is, with this ISIS, they have put a bad image of Muslims in the world. Because there is such a group coming towards Islam, accepting Islam, seeing reality, that you have to make them bad. At the same time, they'll pull the Muslims into a lie. They'll show the non-Muslim Islam is evil. And with that same notice, they will show the Muslim. If you're looking for a group to fight with, then don't worry of all the other groups that are in the world. Only we're not telling you about. Come to the group we are telling you about. Any other group, when Al-Qaeda was called, there was never an Al-Qaeda, but when they called it, any person with a slight suspicion, a friend of mine in England, he only looked on the internet, reading what's happening in Afghanistan. His boss had the thing to check up into the employer's computer. He saw what he's looking at. The next day he lost his job. This person is telling me, he went looking for 5 jobs after that. Everyone refused him on the basis that you are accused of sponsoring terrorism. He only looked at the site. Any person who was slightly suspected, his account was closed. Any person giving zakat, also problems were brought on him. But when you get a group where people can call openly towards something, and you will just say, hey, watch out for this one, watch out. No big stories happening. You must know something is wrong with this group. So there was a group that the news would show bad, and by showing them bad, they will pull so many Muslims towards that group. That if you want to fight for the group we show, you don't go look for any other group. Because there are many other groups there. It's not that this is the only group. وَاسْتَفْزِزْ مَنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ مِنْهُمْ بِصَوْتِكَ وَأَجْلِبْ عَلَيْهِمْ بِخَيْلِكَ وَرَجِلِكَ. Allah Ta'ala told Shaitan, I will put the armies of the world in your hands. You can attack whichever nation you want. United Nations will be yours, NATO will be yours, whatever you want is yours. When you will find a Muslim group rise, and they also, in Surah Kahf at the beginning, Allah Ta'ala says the sign of the believers is that the war they will fight against kufr. لِيُنْذِرَ بَعْثًا شَدِيدًا مِنْ لَدُنْهُ. It will be a ladunni war. Ladunni war means the Muslim nation won't have the arms. They won't have the numbers. You will find that every time they attack, they have to run again. They have to go back to guerrilla warfare. Again the area is taken over by the kafir. Again they're in the mountains. From the mountains they kill. They can't come out because they haven't got the numbers. They haven't got the weapons. They haven't got the technique. They're fighting a guerrilla warfare, but Allah will aid them. And the people of Haqq fought for years. When you will find a nation which is so powerful in military might, that wherever they walk, the enemy runs. And they take over a town. And they even announce which town they took over. And the world knows where the town is. And America's drones and their satellites, which supposed to pick up which cigarette a man is smoking, they can't pick up that one town and come bomb it. Then you will know something is wrong here. If they could pick up one cave where certain suspects, militants are hiding, and they bomb it from far. But now when the people said, we took over this town and no bombing, then you say, this is an army that got the weapons, they got the might. It doesn't work in today's era. وَأَجْلِبْ عَلَيْهِمْ بِخَيْلِكَ وَرَجِلِكَ وَشَارِكْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْوَالِ. Allah Ta'ala said, third power of shaitan will be wealth. When you will find a nation that doesn't need collectors to go quietly and tell a person, you got some zakat, we need some help, we're putting up one madrasa in India, this group is fighting but they got no food. When you got a nation which doesn't ask for money but gives out money, that when you go there everything is sorted out, money is coming from the heavens, then you must know that Allah in this era is not going to send money to the believing nation from the heavens. It's a nation of sabr. وَيُبَشِّرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ الصَّالِحَاتِ. Almighty Allah said, in that era the Muslims will have to make sabr. Money won't be coming from the heavens. Every group of Haqq never have money to dish out. This group got money everywhere. Then you know there's a problem. وَشَارِكُمْ فِي الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَوْلَادِ. Oh Shaitan, I will give you a share in the children of the world. When you will see a group that is able to, without using the mimbar, inspiring people in bayanat, somehow they are able to win the hearts of young girls and boys, pulling them towards something, then you must know from the internet, no one has been pulled towards Haqq. People get pulled towards Haqq in the areas where the name of Allah is taken loudly. The internet pulls supporters to ISIS. You must understand that that is Shaitan pulling them. Otherwise, Haqq is pulled from the mimbars. It's never pulled from the computer. Sharikhum fil amwali wal awlad. When you will see young people getting caught up, you must say, hey, watch out here. Wa'idhum. The fifth is, oh Shaitan, I will give you the power to make promises. How the promise is made, and we will end on this here. If Shaitan had to make a system, that it was so obvious the lie, that I am sitting in Dawlatul Islamiyah, and I am seeing everything running 100%. The group of the Khawarij who never wanted to accept why. They said, what we're seeing in our circle, such piety, you haven't got it amongst you. We are seeing people sajda whole night, reading Quran the whole night, fasting day after day. Even the Sahaba were not doing it. He said, your piety is not like these people's piety. When Khomeini established his Dawlatul Islamiyah, the world followed him. They saw the revolution taking place of Islam. Maulana Manzoor Nomani studied the books. He never go on Google. When he saw Khomeini writing kufr, satanic verses, he compiled it and it was written in the Arabic language. He presented it to the world. Arab ulama looked at it. They said, we were caught. They pulled back. Slowly ulama around the world started pulling. It was too late for many of the general people. They would have said, whatever you say, but Khomeini is the man. Why? They were pulled. The people of Iran, how could they accept Khomeini when he was so evil outside? It's because in his own areas, he could not show evil. In his area, he would show the best of the best. So the man living in it will say, when such a unique empire is created, how can you outside tell me it's wrong? The answer is, nothing wrong is happening in the empire. But the people of the empire is doing the wrong outside the empire. You are looking at the empire and giving a verdict. Come inside and see what's happening. We're not seeing from outside. We're not seeing from inside. We have been ordered to see in the light of Quran and Sunnah. And that will show you a unique thing from on top. Not from this side or from that side or from inside. Because all those sides, that is why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, I am leaving you that which will make night into day for you. When you will see it, your eyes will open up and say, my Nabi spoke about it. Watch out. Wa'idhum. I will give you the chance of making a wa'da, a promise which is a major lie. People will think of this happening, that happening. The kuffar forces will be destroyed. The Shia forces will be destroyed. America will be brought down. We will take over Makkah Mukarramah. Great dreams. Then Allah Ta'ala says, وَمَا يَعِدُهُمُ الشَّيْطَانِ إِلَّا هُرُورًا. Remember, shaitan's promises are nothing but a deception. It looks so unique, but you can never look at it from inside. And you can't look at it from outside. You have to look at it from on top. What was it before it started? Who started it? Who knew the person? Where did he pop out from? Which ulama are around him? Which ulama are supporting him? Which ulama are writing? I sit with him. I know his personal life. I know his personal habits. I know he's a man who doesn't swear. I know he's a man who got good character with his wife. I am his neighbor. I did business dealings. You need a man. You cannot have a Khalifa that no one knows. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was known. Umar radiallahu anhu was known. A man who's a leader. You'll have to know his private life better than his public life. Otherwise he could be a hypocrite and pulling the world into his trap. But this man was never known. وَمَا يَعِدُهُمُ الشَّيْطَانِ. Allah Ta'ala says, shaitan's promise is a deception. And then Allah Ta'ala ends, Inna ibadi. But remember one thing, they will be my selected servants. لَيْسَ لَكَ عَلَيْهِمْ سُلْطَانِ. That, oh shaitan, you will never grab your power over them. وَكَفَى بِرَبِّكَ وَكِيلًا. Because Allah is more than sufficient as a protector for the world. وَإِذَا جَاءَهُمْ أَمْرٌ مِنَ الْأَمْنِ أَوِ الْخَوْفِ. Another verse Allah Ta'ala says, when a matter of fear comes, then they just spread it. And this is what happened with ISIS. Everyone on the messages, see what's happening here, see what's happening here. أَذَاءُوا بِي. They spread it. Allah Ta'ala says, don't be like that. وَلَوْ رَدُّوهُ. Rather, if they returned it to the people of knowledge, they would have found amongst the people of knowledge such people who would make istimbat. Istimbat means they would scratch at the surface to see if really there is water at the bottom. And then they would inform them that yes or no. Allah Ta'ala created a system of ulama. That ulama don't look at it from inside, they don't look at it from outside. Their desire is that from the light of Quran and Sunnah. Finally, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam spoke about the time when the Khilafat will be destroyed, which was destroyed after the crusade. Sahaba radiallahu anhu was shocked. And they wanted to know that no Khilafat in the Muslim world. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam kept quiet. He said, how will we survive? How will we survive? And we're surviving. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam kept quiet. And he said, Thumma. Thumma means after a while, after a while. Allah Tabarakala will make it stand up suddenly, that no force in the world will be able to stop it. It will one day stand on the hand of a man called Mahdi. But the sign of Al-Mahdi standing up will be that the abdal of the world will go searching for this man. They will pull him out from a place where he doesn't want to be pulled out for. He will know what responsibility he got, but he will not be ready to accept it. He won't be coming front. The abdal will introduce him to the world. People will not recognize Al-Mahdi, but those abdal will be known figures in the areas. They will make an announcement, we are pledging on this man. What will be the purpose of that day? The purpose will be at that time, till that time, there will be no Khalifa. Because if there will be a Khalifa, he will say the next Khalifa is Al-Mahdi, accept him. There will be no Khalifa. The world won't know who to accept. It could be a hypocrite, a non-hypocrite. You will need the abdal of the world to all unanimously say, this is the selected of Almighty Allah. And all the people who trusted those different abdal, when they will see these hands are in, they will put their hands. To take out a man of the truth, Almighty Allah created a system of the selected of Allah will find the man. They will pull him out. Before that time, Allah Tabarakala's system is وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهِ. They got their own plans. What I ended up seeing on ISIS is that before the creation of ISIS, the word Khilafat was never taken in the world. We knew of it in Madrasa only. When the Khilafat was destroyed, Sharif Hussein, whether good intention, bad intention, sincere, insincere, he was duped by the British into helping in them destroying the Turkish Khilafat. So he helped them. When the Turkish Khilafat was destroyed, Sharif Hussein stood up and he said, now I am the new Khalifa, because he never knew what British wanted. As soon as he said, I am the new Khalifa, the Saud family was told, if you all remove him, then we will put you all in charge. That's how it became Saudi Arabia. They never helped the British. Sharif Hussein helped. But they were put in charge of Saudi Arabia on one condition, that the word Khilafat will never be taken. Because they knew now the world will look in Hijaz for the Khilafat. Never take the word Khilafat. From that time, how many years passed? No newspaper ever spoke of Khilafat. When Allah Tabarakala wants things to happen, the kafir do their own thing and Allah is on top. They made the word Khilafat through the creation called ISIS spread in the world. Today every farmer, every young girl, old daddy and nanima also, whether they can pronounce it, they can't. They say Khilafat, Khilafat, they don't know what it means. But the word has come back on the tongue. Everyone is calling for a Khilafat. Everyone is calling for jihad. The news would never speak of this. But Allah Pak made it on their own hands. The word Khilafat became popular in the world. And after it will spread, and the soldiers are being created, and as Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned, it will be a one-time stand-up. When it stands, it will be the ending. Until that time, Shaitan will try a couple of plots. ISIS might be one. There might be many others we will see. Al-anatu min Allah. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, when something happens, don't get caught with emotion. Take it easy. Look at it nicely. وَالْعَجَلَةُ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ. Haste is from Shaitan. We all want Islam to come up in the world. Every night's dua is, every day's dua is, oh Allah, bring the flags of Islam, bring the nizam of Islam, bring the laws of Islam. Our hope and desire is, but when you see a pop, don't just get caught in emotion and say, here's my dream, here's my dream. It might not be the dream. Al-anatu min Allah. Be cautious. Look at everything that it's possible, it's from Allah. It's possible, it's not from Allah. May Allah Tabarakala grant us all understanding. May Allah protect us from every trick of Shaitan. May Allah grant us the eyes that we see behind every trick. We are able to see, Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqa. Nabi Sallallahu made this dua that, oh Allah, what is the truth? Let me see it as the truth. Wa arina al-batila batila. Oh Allah, what is a lie? Let me understand the lie behind it. وَارْزُقْنَا اتِّبَاعَ وَارْزُقْنَا اجْتِنَابَ. Oh Allah, the truth, let me follow it. Oh Allah, what's not the truth, let me abstain. وَارْزُقْنَا rozi. Hazrat Shah Hakim Muhammad Akhtar Sahib Rahimullah would explain what a dua. To explain that the truth will not always look like the truth. And batil, falsehood will not always look like batil. You will think right to be wrong, you will think wrong to be right. He said, oh Allah, what's right? Let me see it right. What is wrong? Let me see it wrong. Then he said, warzuqna, rozi. He said, what is rozi? Another hadith explains, inna abdan, inna nafsan, lan tamuta. No man will die until he takes his full rozi. He says, when you make this dua, that let my rozi be the following of the truth, and my rozi being abstaining from evil, then your rozi is such a thing that before you die, you have to finish your rozi. So it's a dua to say, oh Allah, let my end come on this, that I am on the truth and I am far from batil. Make it my food, my rozi. May Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala make it all our sustenance. May Allah protect us from evil. May Allah keep us in good. May Allah show us all the right. May Allah protect us from all evil. Wa akhiru da'wana. Alhamdulillah.